We like to believe human progress moves forward in a straight line, but history shows there was a time when everything nearly stopped and humanity fell into centuries of silence. Imagine a world where people were already building steam engines, mapping the stars with great accuracy, and measuring the size of the Earth long before the first explorer set sail. This was the reality of ancient Alexandria, a city that stored human knowledge like a hard drive, until it was destroyed by fire and extreme beliefs. By the time this story ends, you will see that we are not truly living in the future. We are still recovering from a disaster that changed the world forever. In the 3rd century before the Common Era, the world was filled with scattered myths and local stories until the Ptolemaic dynasty began a project unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. They did not just want to rule the rich lands of Egypt. They wanted to gather every idea, discovery, and record ever written by human hands. This dream led to the creation of the Great Library of Alexandria, a grand place built to gather and connect all of humanity's knowledge in one center. To fill its vast shelves, the kings of Egypt enforced a strict rule called the policy of the ships, requiring every ship that docked in their harbor to be searched for books and scrolls. If a traveler had a scroll the library did not already have, it was taken right away and given to a team of royal scribes. These scribes worked for days to make a careful copy, but the library kept the original and returned only the duplicate to the frustrated traveler. This aggressive collecting turned Alexandria into the world's first real data center, attracting thousands of scholars who were given free housing and tax breaks to spend their lives studying. It was a state-funded place for learning, where careful organization and massive translation work made the city a shining center of knowledge for the ancient world. Walking through the sunlit halls of the library over 2,000 years ago would have felt much like walking through a modern research center at NASA or CERN. In these marble rooms, a scholar named Eratosthenes used just a stick and the sun's angle to measure the Earth's circumference with amazing accuracy. While most of the world saw the stars as gods, Aristarchus of Samos was already recording his idea that the Earth revolves around the sun, a truth that wouldn't be widely accepted for 1,800 years. In the engineering sections, inventors like Heron of Alexandria were building the first steam engines and designing machines that could dispense holy water when a coin was inserted. They had mapped the planet's movements, studied the human nervous system through careful dissection, and were even experimenting with early forms of batteries. Many historians now believe that if this progress had continued, the Industrial Revolution could have happened around 50 BCE instead of the 18th century. We could have seen steam-powered ships crossing the Atlantic while most of the world was still using bronze and stone tools. The library stood as a bright beacon of reason in a world full of superstition, pushing human knowledge to the edge of the modern world long before people were ready for it. As the Great Library grew in power, the pursuit of knowledge turned into a fierce intellectual rivalry between Alexandria's scholars and their competitors in Pergamum. The kings of Pergamum started building their own large collection, directly challenging Alexandria's hard-earned place as the top center of learning in the Mediterranean. Out of petty jealousy, Pharaoh Ptolemy V banned the export of papyrus, the main writing material of the time, hoping to weaken the rival library. He believed that if his competitors could not find the materials to record their thoughts, their grand library would simply fade away and be lost to history. However, this act of international sabotage backfired, and it ended up preserving pieces of human history for centuries. Forced by necessity, the scholars in Pergamum created a stronger writing material from treated animal skins, which we now call parchment or vellum. Unlike fragile papyrus, which rots in humidity or burns easily, parchment was tough and could last for thousands of years in harsh conditions. This rivalry pushed humanity to invent a more lasting way to preserve knowledge, showing that even in ancient times, controlling information was the most powerful tool a leader could have. While many believe the library was destroyed in a single night, the historical reality is much more haunting because it was slowly lost over 4 centuries. The first major blow happened during the Roman civil wars when Julius Caesar accidentally started a fire in the harbor that spread to nearby warehouses, destroying tens of thousands of irreplaceable scrolls. Later, in the 3rd century, Emperor Aurelian destroyed the royal quarter during a brutal siege, burying much of the library's treasures under rubble and dust. Perhaps the most damaging losses were not from war, but from a shift in human thinking as the Roman world chose religious dogma over scientific exploration. By the end of the 4th century, people saw new and questioning ideas as dangerous or pagan, so a mob destroyed the Serapeum, the library's sister branch, trying to wipe out knowledge from the past. By the time the final fires were set during the conquest of 642 CE, the library was already mostly gone, and its remaining scrolls were reportedly burned to heat the city's public baths. For 6 long months, the plans for a more advanced future were slowly turned into ash, serving no higher purpose than providing warm water for a conquering army. When the light of Alexandria finally went out, the flame of human reason died with it, leaving the Western world in silence for over 1,000 years. We did not just lose poetry and philosophy, we lost the very technical manuals that showed how to run a civilization. For centuries after the collapse, people lived among the grand ruins of the Roman world without the knowledge to understand or rebuild it. We forgot the secret of Roman concrete, a material so strong it could stay solid underwater for 2,000 years, and its secrets were not rediscovered until the 19th century. We lost the detailed maps of the stars and oceans, so later explorers like Christopher Columbus had to sail into the unknown with charts far less accurate than those made 1,500 years earlier. Modern historians estimate that nearly 99% of the library's contents are lost, along with medical knowledge and the hidden histories of countless vanished empires. The Dark Ages were dark because books were burned, scholars were scattered, and human curiosity was replaced by fear and obedience. It is a chilling reminder that progress is never guaranteed, it is fragile and can be wiped out in a single, careless generation. In the modern era, we have built a new version of the Library of Alexandria, made of fiber optic cables and silicon chips instead of papyrus and stone. Even though we now have more access to information than any previous generation, the fragility of our knowledge is just as real as it was in ancient Egypt. A single huge electromagnetic pulse or a major digital collapse could wipe out our shared history just as completely as Julius Caesar's fires did. The story of Alexandria shows that knowledge is alive and can only survive if a society protects it and values truth above power. We need to look at our world and ask whether we are truly building a lasting future or just collecting the fuel for another collapse of human knowledge. The ghosts of Alexandria's scholars seem to whisper from the Mediterranean, warning us that once the light of reason goes out, it takes a very long time to light it again. Let this be our lesson in the digital age. We must guard our progress carefully and make sure the fire of discovery never flickers out. Because if we lose our way once more, the next dark age might not just last 1,000 years, it might last for eternity.